Hello and welcome to episode 4 of Get Decked, the video series where I make budget Magic the Gathering decks for you to use at casual game nights and to introduce friends and family members to Magic the Gathering. In this episode I'm going to talk about Killer Vanilla, which is a mono green deck, and you've probably guessed the theme of the deck just from the deck name. Let's get into it and look how the deck is put together. Firstly, let's just remind ourselves of the Get Deck rules. We set ourselves a budget of $30 or less at time recording. The deck's are 60 cards intended for 2-player games. There's no format restrictions. The decks are low to mid complexity, so they're ideal for players with less experience, and just because it's a casual deck doesn't mean it has to be weak or bad. Let's get into it and look at the deck list here. So we've got 18 creatures, 3 enchantments, 9 sorceries, 6 instants, 24 land, and we've got a mana curve off to the side there. I'll stick a link to this deck list in the description below, so you can look at it yourself and purchase it from a online seller. Anyway, let's get on with it and actually look at what's going on in the deck. So, how are we winning? So it is a the big theme of the deck is like big green vanilla creatures that get benefits by being vanilla, right? So because of that, we're going to have, like, I think the most iconic card to help, like a recent card that helps with vanilla creatures, which is Ruxa, Patient Professor. So 2 and double green for a 4/4. When Ruxa enters the battlefield or attacks, return a creature card that has no abilities from your graveyard to your hand. Creatures you control with no abilities get +1/+1, and you may have creatures you control with no abilities assign their combat damage as though they weren't blocked. So Ruxa is doing a lot. Also, I've got to say, to my fellow older millennials out there watching this has got to be a reference to Teddy Ruxpin, right? Like the storytelling bear had a whole cartoon and a toy around it. That's got to be a reference, right? In terms of name and creature type. But yeah, Ruxa is doing a hell of a lot. So it's a raised dead effect, just for, on a repeated raised dead effect, because on ETB and whenever it attacks, and why wouldn't you? It's a 4/4. It's an anthem effect for all your vanilla creatures, and it gives all your vanilla creatures super trample, so they can just deal damage as though they weren't blocked. So Ruxa is doing a lot, is one of the real key cards of the deck to make it really tick. So then on, we're going to zoom through the rest of the creatures because they're all vanilla creatures, right? So we've got 4 Colonian Tuskers, 2 green mana for a 3/3, 4 Leatherback Balos, which is 3 green mana for a 4/5, which was, like, back in the day when this was released, we all thought this was ridiculous in my play group, like, oh my god, like, it's so good for 3 green mana, which is, I think, kind of charming. I would actually argue it's still fairly good by today's standards, just 3 green mana for just a 4/5. Maybe that's just the casual side of me showing there, but I think this is still okay. And then we've got 3 Divorced Claws, 4 and double green for a 7/7. And then that's kind of it in terms of actual creature cards. Then a lot of the vanilla creatures going to be making are actually going to come from cards that make tokens, because tokens are usually, vanilla creatures. They usually don't have any abilities. So we've got 2 Fungal Sproutings, and I'm kind of undecided whether 2 is the right number. 3 might be better, but this might require some actual playing the deck to see how it works out. So we've got 2 Fungal Sproutings. This is sorcery. You put X 1/1 green sapling creature tokens onto the battlefield, where X is the greatest power amongst creatures you control. So this could potentially just, for 4 mana, create a whole bunch of saplings, which is obviously amazing. If you play this after Divorced Claw, you're getting 7 saplings for 4 mana, which is obviously pretty great. I think we want to get at least 3 saplings out of this, really, don't you? Which I think that's the absolute bare minimum, which shouldn't be difficult to do because actually all the creatures we've got in here are fairly beefy. But yeah, you definitely want to be getting, 5 or more from a casting of this, I think. And then we've got 3 Mouth to Feed, which is from Amonkhet's, one of these Aftermath cards. So you play it from your hand as Mouth, which makes a 3/3 green hippo, and then you can play it from your graveyard as the Feed half, which lets you draw a card for every creature you control with power 3 or greater. So for 4 mana, that potentially draws you a bunch of cards, and hopefully lets you find either Ruxa or one of the other cards that we're going to look at in a minute that helps the deck really go off and become supercharged and actually lets you win. So we're going to look at what helps us win besides the card draw from Feed. So we've got 4 Elvish Mystics, just to help with ramp, just a classic kind of mana elf. It won't get any of the benefits because it does have an ability. Basically, if you're new to the game, anything in the text box that isn't flavor text immediately invalidates it getting all the bonuses from having no abilities. But it's still useful in here, obviously, because we do have some fairly expensive creatures like the Divorced Claw and stuff, and it's obviously good to be able to play Mouth to Feed and do both halves in a single turn. So yeah, got to have a bit of ramp, I think. And then the key card really is 3 Muruganda Petroglyphs. This is a classic enchantment all the way back from Future Sight. and it's been reprinted recently in the in Time Spiral Remastered. So it's 3 in the green. Creatures with no ability to get +2/+2. It is a symmetrical effect, so it does also affect your opponent's creatures. So just be aware of that. But we're built to like have more things with no abilities to really take the advantage of that. So even just like one of these, and you do like a fungal sprouting, all those saplings going to be 3/3. So really going to like just have some really big beefy creatures from this. We've also got 2 predatory rampage. So normally green specializes in having like these board wide buffs, like overrun, right? Overrun is the classic, but overrun gives trample, and that's then an ability which switches off all the all the no ability synergies. So we've gone with predatory rampage instead. So 3 in double green. All your creatures get +3/+3 turn, and each creature your opponents control has to block this turn if able. So it is kind of like a janky removal. You're making creatures super strong, forcing your opponent to block with all their creatures, and hopefully you'll just outmuscle them and then just absolutely smash them. We've also got 2 Titania's Command, 4 and double green, so it's kind of on the expensive end, but we do have the Elvish Mystics to help out with that. So it's one of these commands which are really great. They're a really good multifunctional card, and that you can sort of choose exactly what you need for the given situation. So you choose 2 out of the 4 options. You either exile a player's graveyard, and you gain 1 life for every card exiled this way. You search your library for up to 2 land cards, put them on the battlefield tapped, then shuffle. You create 2 green bear tokens. That's probably what you're going to do most often, and put 2 +1/+1 counters on each creature you control. I would say most of the time you're playing this, you're going to want to do those last 2 options to make 2 bears and then put 2 counters on everything you control. So at the very least, then you've made 2 4/4 bears, which is not bad for 6 mana. But the other 2 options might be okay. I would say actually that land option might not be necessary, because like this is like kind of at the top of the curve. So I feel like by the time you've hit 6 mana, you don't necessarily need to ramp up into more land. But there's always an option you might. And the graveyard one is a very niche ability, so I think definitely it's the last 2 abilities you'll be using most of the time with Titania's Command. So we're going to talk about also what stops them winning. It's not just enough for us to have a bunch of big beefy creatures. We need a way to stop their big beefy creatures. So we've got 3 bite downs. This is basically as close as we're going to get to actual removal, like direct removal at least. So it's a bite effect. So it's 1 in the green. Target creature you control deals damage equal to its power to target creature or planeswalker you don't control. So we've got big beefy creatures. This is usually going to do a whole bunch of essentially burn damage. So yep, that's fine. We've got 3 of those. And then we've got 3 broken wings. This is just, I think, a fantastically versatile like green utility spell. It's 2 in a green instant. You either destroy an artifact, enchantment, or a creature with flying. Because we've got no abilities. We actually have no way of dealing with like flying creatures other than like maybe forcing them to block. But like anything with flying just gets past us completely. So what stops us winning? Well, as discussed there, literally anything with evasion is like a big problem unless we have broken wings, because we can't block it. We've got nothing with reach. And also like chump blockers as well, like like tokens, anything like that, because we don't have any trample apart from Ruxa that gives them the super trample. If the opponent's got like a way of like just anything making like chump blockers, or like something that's indestructible, or I say just a bunch of tokens, we've got no trample to get past that because we've got no abilities. But that's the price you pay for going full vanilla, I suppose. And also, it's I mean, like, it's kind of a cute theme, right? But it is ultimately, I think, would be very straightforward, and like maybe but some people could find it like a little boring to play, because like literally all you're doing is like, you've got no options with your creatures, right? They've got no abilities. It is literally all muscle and like no think. It is the most straightforward deck I think that I'm actually going to make for this series at all. So yeah, that's a potential problem. But what do you think of the deck? Do you like the look of it? Is there anything you would change in particular? Do you have a friend or family member who you think would enjoy playing this deck and like getting into the game that way? I say it is a very simple deck, so it is actually probably quite suitable for maybe like a really brand new player, because they don't have to worry about abilities or something. But then I do worry that's like maybe not like very representative or like what Magic can actually be. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on this vanilla deck in the comments down below. But I'll be back next time with another budget casual Magic the Gathering deck. So until then, thanks for watching and listening, and have a great day.